Welcome to Curtis Goes Corner, coming to you from a secret underground base in occupied America. Hi, folks. Welcome back. And those of you that are new, welcome. Well. What happens when your ideology meets reality? Anti-Defamation League leader vents on MSNBC over network's coverage of Hamas terror against Israel. Who's writing the script? The Democratic Party. Give you a little background. He also said they're not fighters, they're terrorists. Give you a little background. His name is Jonathan Greenblatt. You can look it up. He used to work for, wait for it, Barack Obama. He was an advisor to Barack Obama. It's the Democrat Party whose stance on Hamas and the Palestinians that caused this disaster to everyone on both sides. He has the balls to say who's writing the script, and he acts outraged. Now let's check out what this mental pygmy has to say.
Dad and trying to cope. I'll be honest, I am angry. I am angry with the world that allowed the dehumanization of Israelis and sanitized the terrorism of Hamas. I must say, I love this show, and I love this network.
It's you, my friend. It's you. And Barack Obama, the person you work for, that sanitized it, that made Hamas and the terrorists freedom fighters and militants. It's you. How could you be so self-unaware? So self-unaware. With all your education, your cult, your membership in the cult is so deep and so ingrained that you can't see it yourself. This gentleman is the leader of the Anti-Defamation League. One of his grandparents was in the Holocaust. And now he's outraged that this network and that show, who's writing the script? You are, my friend, and you have been for years and years and years. All of a sudden now, your ridiculous ideology has met reality. I love this network. I love this show. They've been doing this for years and years and years. You have friends that are going to be on the front lines in Israel. You have acquaintances and friends, relatives, scores of people that you know in Israel that are now in danger. And you're upset because they sanitized Hamas and didn't call them the barbaric terrorists that they are? Look in the mirror, my friend. You are to blame. Let's listen on.
But I've got to ask, who is writing the scripts? Hamas? The people who did this, they are not fighters, Jonathan. They are not militants, and I'm looking right at the camera. They are terrorists.
Your own administration called them that. Who's writing the script? The Democrat Party. The DNC is. That's who's writing the script, you genius.
It is a barbarian who and brutalizes women, who kills children in front of their parents, and then brings them over to Gaza, who literally, we've heard all these reports, and we know these aren't just reports. These were filmed gleefully by the barbarians who committed these grotesque crimes.
Yes, with your approval. This guy, how can someone with so much education be so stupid? Your ideology is clouding the reality of the world. You bent over backwards. Remember the pallets full of cash that were sent to Iran under the Obama administration? Pallets full of cash. Millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in cash by the administration you work for. Where was your outrage then? You know what we heard from you? We heard this. That's what we heard. And so they built up their military. They poured money into Palestine and Hamas over the years. Trump put a lot of the stop to it. A lot of the stop to it. You owe him an apology. But I wouldn't hold my hand on my ass waiting for that. And then President Biden just continued the policy. And now we have what we have today. Thousands of rockets hitting Israel from Palestine and Gaza. Hamas. Where do you think they got the money from? The Tooth Fairy, you idiot. Idiot. Let's listen on.
They filmed, for example, an elderly woman in her home in one of these towns. They burned her alive in her house because she was too infirm to take out. And, you know, parading women, bleeding from the crotch because they were throughout Gaza while people hoot and holler and cheer. And if you're wondering if I'm exaggerating, please, I beg of you, everyone watching and everyone at this network, just watch the footage.
Moron! You are to blame in part. Your ideology. There are thousands of people protesting just in New York City with Palestinian flags. It is your progressive Democrat Party that's enabled these people for years and years, decades. And now your ideology has met reality. Either you're incredibly stupid or you're a top-level hypocrite. It's hard to tell which one anymore. Let's check out the rest of the story. Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt chided MSNBC for their coverage of the deadly Hamas terror attack against Israel, bluntly asking while appearing on the network, who's writing the scripts? You are. The DNC, the Democratic Party. They've been writing the scripts for CNN and MSNBC for years and years and years. Greenblatt was a guest on Monday's Morning Joe, where he was asked for his reaction to the terrorist attack and ensuing war. After saying he was saddened by the conflict, and he was angry at how some media outlets are sanitizing the brutality of autocracies against Israelis, just like they did during the BML riots, mostly peaceful protests. Remember the moron for CNN that stood there live while this huge building was burning down behind him, and he used that as a backdrop to say it was a mostly peaceful protest. Remember that, idiot? Or your French speakers out there, idiot. It's you. It's you that's been sanitizing all these things for years. And now your ideology has really hit home for you. The ideology has now hit reality. And then this moron has to say, I must say, I love this show. I love this network. Because you tell lie after lie after lie that we tell you to say. But I got to ask who's writing the scripts. Hamas, the people who did this, they're not fighters. They're not militants. I'm looking right at the camera. Oh, what dramatic effect. It is a barbarian who assaults and brutalizes women, who kills children in front of their parents and brings them over to Gaza. You are right. And you have been aiding and abetting them for years. Gave them billions of dollars in cash. Remember the pallets from Barack Obama sent over? And I'll bet you didn't say a freaking word. Nothing. Burning an elderly person alive. Parading women around who had just been assaulted. Greenblatt objected to arguments from those defending Hamas's action as justified. So while they say this is an escalation, it was bound to happen, I'm sorry. This is a massacre that was planned. Greenblatt begged the network and their liberal listeners to get the story right. Why should they? Because of the magnitude of the conflict. You didn't give a damn about every other story. You didn't care about the Russian hoax. Trump's an agent. Trump is this. Trump is that. Republicans are this. Republicans are that. You listen, sent over pallets full of cash, billions of dollars in cash. You didn't say a word. In fact, here was your response. Crickets. Please stop calling this a retaliation. Well, please stop calling when they're burning down billions of dollars worth of buildings and businesses and killing over 30, 40 people during the BLM riots. Stop calling them peaceful protesters. When they trapped federal employees in a federal building and then tried to burn it down with them inside and burn them alive. For some reason, where was your outrage when MSNBC called them mostly peaceful protesters? When they actually surrounded the White House, Antifa, BLM, and all the rest. Well, they had to put the president and his family in a bunker. Well, they almost burned down an over 200-year-old church across from the White House that James Madison attended. Where was your outrage then? Nowhere to be found. Please stop calling this a retaliation. That's what you were saying about BLM. That's what you were saying when they surrounded the White House. When dozens and dozens of Secret Service agents were injured, you just laughed because it was Trump that had to go into the bunker. Not a peaceful resolution of a conflict, but murdering Jews, he bluntly stated. And if you're wondering if I'm exaggerating, please, I beg of you, watch, and everyone on this network, just watch the footage. We watched the footage. What was it, May 5th or whatever it was, when they surrounded the White House and burned down guard shacks? Tried to burn federal employees alive in the building? We watched those footage too, but where were you? Where was your outrage? Earlier in the program, NBC foreign correspondent Richard Engel referred to Hamas fighters during some of his live coverage of the conflict from Israel. MSNBC host Jonathan Lemire also mentioned Hamas militants during his coverage, although he also noted terrorists attacked the Israeli people. You don't like it being sanitized. Well, we don't like the fact that it was sanitized with BLM. When hundreds of women took over the Hart Building and closed down the Senate from voting, yet no one went to jail. No one went to jail. They stopped voting. They stopped the Congress from functioning, yet not a single person was jailed. Over the weekend, MSNBC hosts sought to contextualize the attack as linked to Israel's wrongdoing. Vichy said there should be more nuance around the issue, not to forget Israel's inhumane treatment of the Palestinians who live under Israeli occupation. Let me give you a little piece of fact. The Arabs, Palestinians, and others who live in Israel are the freest Arabs in the world. Yes, there might be some racial tensions and conflict there, but they are the freest Arabs in the world. Do you think if an Arab, a Muslim in Israel, decides to leave the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith, they're put to death everywhere else in the world, but not Israel, because they have a free society. So quit your bitching. What we see today is the deadly consequences of failed policies. Failure on the American administration's part to change course, to take a different course of action with how we deal with the Palestinians and Israelis. Failures on Israelis' part, no. Failure on the region's part not to be able to say this is an issue that matters. It's amazing to me. On Sunday, the Anti-Defamation League leader criticized some U.S. media outlets' treatment of the terror attack and blistering threat. Commentators must stop dignifying them as militants. Like when they were trying to burn down the White House, they were peaceful protesters. What about that? Stop lauding their crimes as spectacular. They are agents of death with an agenda of savagery, and there is no excuse for those who apologize for their crimes or glorify their actions, he wrote in part. Like trying to burn federal employees alive in a building? Didn't have a thing to say about that. There are some issues in public life that might prompt impassioned debate. Then there are moments of unmistakable moral clarity that demand unequivocal, universal commendation. This is one of those moments. It is good versus evil. That's it, he said. So were all the other moments. So were the moments when the only death in the January 6th riot was by a Capitol police officer killing a protester. You didn't have a word to say about that, good versus evil. You didn't have a word to say about it when the administration you work for was spying on a presidential candidate. I can't even tell you how many parts of the Constitution that violates. When that same administration lied to FISA courts to get all kinds of warrants to tap cell phones and other things, you didn't have a word to say. When dozens and dozens of people were being killed in the BLM riots, what did you have to say how horrible it was? Where was your moment of clarity? When the President of the United States and his family had to be put into a bunker, where was your good versus evil moment? Just piss me off. People, either he's such incredibly stupid or he's one of the biggest hypocrites that ever lived. I can't tell which one. Your party that you represent, the DNC, the person you work for in the Obama administration, you love this show? They're the reason why this happened. And by extension, the Biden administration as well. Look in the mirror, you genius. Your ideology has caught up with reality, and you still don't get it. One of my favorite expressions is, don't confuse intelligence with formal education. And this is the poster boy for that saying. What do you think? Until next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.